I think it's a tug of war between two muscle groups. On one side, we have the adductors. On the other side, we have the glute medius and the TFL. After yesterday, 5 a.m. session, throughout the day, I started feeling my right hip pain again. And you know what? I was pissed. I was frustrated. I'm doing these damn lunges and these damn GHDs, and I'm still getting this pain. So I started thinking to myself, every single time I put in a high volume squat session for the next couple of days, my hip feels weird. I'm doing the lunges, I'm doing the GHDs. I thought this was going to sort everything out. Apparently not. So in my frustration, in my rage, I started going back into Google and searching the web and seeing what I can find. And then it occurred to me. I read an article by Greg Knuckles talking about the adductors, again, for the second time this week. And he basically said that the adductors were crazy muscles, basically. They have a very large play in the squat. They both extend, flex the hip and the knee. They contribute to both of those joints and both of those movements, which is really, really weird. I read another somewhere else as well that the adductors are just weird. And then I watched a video of some pathologist somewhere with an accent. I think he's German or someplace like this. And he was basically doing an examination of this cadaver. The cadaver didn't have like a skin or fascia, so it was just basically exposed muscle fibers, muscle groups. And he was cutting into the adductors, and he basically got to the adductor magnus, which is the biggest one. So this was a normal, untrained person, dehydrated, passed away. I don't know what, how long of a time before the examination, but very dehydrated. And I can tell you that magnus, the adductor magnus, looked big, man. It looked very, very big. And then I started pulling all that information down together in my brain, and I thought to myself, this guy has to have a pivotal, a part in what I'm feeling right now. So I think the adductors, number one, right, they adduct, adduct the hip. The opposite, sort of the opposition of that movement are the TFL and the glute medius. So it's a tug of war between those two muscle groups. So if I'm feeling pain in my AB adductors, the TFL and the glute medius, it just occurred to me, maybe because my adductors are so freaking tight, so freaking overworked from doing ATG squats. And we know the ATG squats, what gets you out of the hole is the adductor. Maybe the AB adductors, the TFL and the glute medius, are just basically freaking out. They can't fight with this big, juicy adductor. They're overpowered and they're just hurting because they're constantly on their last legs. So then last night I started basically stretching like a maniac. I was basically stretching for, you can call it, the middle splits. I would lay on the floor, put my legs up against the wall, throw them to the side, flex a little bit, go further, flex a little bit, go further. Just like basically, windscreen wipers, if that makes sense. And then I would basically get in the full squat, put my knees into my knees and push them apart. Get on all fours, kind of like doggy style, like spread the knees. I just basically every single exercise that I could think of to elongate, to stretch the adductors. Then I went to sleep, and I felt good doing that. Went to sleep. This morning I woke up feeling brand spanking new, man. I can't explain to you. No TFL pain, no nothing. And so right now I'm telling you this because I feel there is something to this. Maybe my TFL, my glute medius is not all that weak. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just weaker compared to the adductor. And it's never going to freaking catch up to the adductor because the adductor is humongous, man. It is a humongous muscle. It's a prime mover. The TFL looks like a freaking peanut compared to it. I don't care how much AB adduction you do, how much, leg raises you do, lateral leg raises. You're never going to catch up to the adductors. It's just the potential is completely different. So for this workout, so far you've seen me doing a whole lot of ATG pauses, trying to spread my legs, trying to get really, really kind of wide, spread the groin. And I felt good. I tried to pause everything. I think this is 160 right now. You'll be able to see that I paused this as well. The only one I didn't pause is 180, which is coming up next. And that's because, frankly, I was just, my adductors have taken an absolute beating. And I just didn't want to do a major grind. You'll see the 180 now. I moved all right, but, it wasn't It wasn't something that I was kind of looking forward to, just because, they all say you're not supposed to freaking stretch, at least statically stretch. Although this is not static stretching, this is kind of like active stretching. Before, doing heavy weight, before doing any of that, it's not recommended. So this is why I need. Let me have a look at this, how it felt. I think it felt quite good out of the hole. Let's see if there was a sticking point. No, that was not bad at all, considering what I just went through. And so today, basically, I did this. This was on my mind, to do some ATG pauses, thinking about the adductors. And then the only other exercise that I think is worthwhile doing at this point is the lunges. And I did quite a lot of lunges. I did 5 sets of 50. Thought about adding weight. But right now my mind's thinking about the adductors and stretching them. So quite a quick workout today, I guess. If it wasn't for all the lead up to it, I did several sets with just the bar, in the bottom of the squat. It would have been just under an hour, this workout. So after this, basically, I've got the rest of the day off. I'm going to spend a lot of freaking time on my adductors. I'm going to stretch them out, and I'm going to see how I pull up tomorrow. I honestly think this is something, obviously, I'm going to continue doing lunges, as you can see here. I think glute med and TFL, predominantly the glute med needs to work. So out of the two, the TFL and the glute med is the dog. He's the main guy when it comes to AB adduction. I want him to do all of the work. The TFL is kind of like a bit of a cherry on the cake kind of thing. The glute med is way bigger and should be the primary movement when it comes to abduction. But you can never fight the big dog on the other side of the leg, which is the adductor. So I need to stretch the adductors. The adductors are plenty strong. So I guess this is one incident where a tight muscle is not necessarily a weak muscle. So this is an overworking of a muscle. I've said in the past that I do not believe, for the majority, they should ever consider a tight muscle being a strong muscle. Usually a tight muscle is a weak muscle. But when you're doing squat every day and you're going ATG every day and you're hitting 180 every day, maybe there's a component of overworking there, right? But for the majority of people, I just want to say that I truly believe that if you have a tight muscle, it's probably weak. There's no doubt about it. So that's the majority. That doesn't mean that I'm saying in absolute terms that every single time you have a tight muscle, it's going to be a weak muscle. I'm just saying for the general public, your thought should be there initially. If it's tight, I need to strengthen it rather than stretch it. In my circumstance, this is basically an exception, and it's not absolute, but I think I have enough evidence to show that I do this quite a lot, and maybe there's a component of too much work in one muscle group. So this is where it needs a bit of stretching. But for all the other parts, like if I was to get, I don't know, a tight pec, and I'm not bench pressing, you know what I mean? Maybe I should do some bench pressing, and maybe that extra strength gains from the bench press will release it. Anyway, so continue doing the lunges. Beautiful weather today. I should have worn shorts, but it was kind of cooler earlier in the day. So beautiful day. I hit the grass here. Loving it. I'm in good spirits today because I kind of feel like I'm getting somewhere. Yet last night I was pissed, man. I won't lie to you. I was pissed. But anyway, all the stretching kind of helped me out. So I now want to tell you that I'm going to make a bit of a pledge, a bit of a promise. I'm going to tell you about a bit of a goal that I'm going to aim for. I want to say that I want to continue doing adductor stretching every day now, and I'm going to monitor closely what it feels like. The aim here is to get middle splits. I know. That is a massive goal, and it is a goal that is very, very hard to get. It's an advanced position, especially somebody that is not flexible. So my aim here is to work on my adductors. I'm going to try and concentrate more on PNF stretching. PNF stretching is kind of like static stretching, but with a bit of muscle contraction. So if you think of doing the wall kind of leg spread while lying on your back, you spread your legs on the wall, and instead of just sitting there statically kind of waiting for gravity kind of to pull you apart, you are flexing down like into the stretch, and then you're flexing up. You kind of pulsate upwards, contract the adductor out of that end range, and then back down. PNF stretching stands for, if I'm not mistaken, proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation, PNF. Basically means is that you're teaching your muscle to contract, to develop strength in that end range of motion. And that's been proven to kind of increase flexibility quicker than just static stretching. I think the physiotherapist that came up with this is kind of working in disability, post-stroke, that kind of environment. And so he kind of came up with this. This is kind of 20, 30 years ago. So this is my starting point. This is where I'm at right now. This is after stretching all night last night. So probably even worse if I didn't do that. So I'm far, far, far away from getting middle split. But this is where I'm starting out. I thought I'd shoot this particular clip just so I have a reference point, and we'll go from there. Hopefully it helps me out. All right, guys. Hope it helped. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.